Welcome back, everybody. We got week 13 of Double D's. I'm Daryl,
And I'm Dave.
and we're here live from Dave's house with a whole bunch of fantasy stuff for you.
Good.
Fantasy stuff. All right, we got some injuries this week, as we do every week. A couple key tight ends. Gronk, man, done for the year.
Possibly career-ending back injury
Yes.
that he suffered this last week.
The man's had multiple injuries throughout his career. This is his third back surgery, I believe.
At least.
At least. That's a blow for the Patriots. They can absorb it better than most fantasy owners can. I mean, they still have Martellus Bennett and up-and-coming Mike Mitchell.
That's a deflating blow.
Deflating. If it was A-Rod, we'd be saying relax. All right, Jordan Reed. He's not supposed to play this week. He separated his shoulder. He played through it in Dallas last week and balled out. But the Redskins are playing it smart.
Yeah, thinking long-term here. Definitely thinking long-term. I mean, we're looking at Gronk out for this season. Jordan Reed guaranteed number one tight end the rest of the way if he's playing. I think you'd agree here. We just had a conversation before we started the podcast. Think to yourselves out there, if you're in a redraft league and it comes up to that first, second round area where you would normally be seeing Gronk go, where does Jordan Reed go?
Right, if there's no Gronk and his career really is done, are you looking all of a sudden now in a redraft league? Is Jordan Reed going top of the third round, bottom second? I mean, most drafts we saw him this year fourth-ish.
Yeah, that's a good spot. I'm
late
with
fourth.
you. RELAX. Stay in the fourth round with him. Don't push up. A lot of good picks there. Take a Frank Gore. Take a Carlos Hyde. Reach there over someone like Jordan Reed.
I agree. Frank Gore's the man, dude. AJ Green, still not playing this week. Grade 2 tear in his hamstring, 50% tear. No shocker there. I think the Bengals hold him out for the rest of the year. No reason to rush him back. They're done with the playoffs. They're not getting in. Andrew Luck, he's back. Great matchup against the Jets. Robert Woods for Buffalo. Now, he's out, but if you own Robert Woods, once Sammy came back, you probably should have parted ways with him because Buffalo's offense can't support more than one receiver.
No, I could disagree with that, but when you have LaShawn McCoy, they're already getting a huge workload, and Sammy Watkins, you have a dynamic duo there. Tyrod Taylor is great, but I do agree with you. Robert Woods does need to be kicked to the curb.
Now, Cutler's out, no shocker there. Barkley throwing 54 times last week was kind of a shocker. Trevor Siemian was out. Now, this was I had no clue where this came from. Sprained left foot. No Trevor Siemian. They'll be looking at Paxton Lynch against a Jacksonville defense that's pretty underrated, in my opinion. I mean, their pass D. Jalen Ramsey's a stud. I think that's going to be a huge determination in the game. Not so much for fantasy, because nobody's playing Paxton Lynch unless you're really desperate. Ryan Matthews for the Eagles, he's still out. Chris Ivory for the Jets, he's out. TJ Yeldon looking to pick up some of them carries. Hey, even maybe a Denard Robinson. We got the return of Shoelace.
Yeah, it just it scares me there. I think the only reason Chris Ivory had value is he's a little more of a powerful back. I think TJ Yeldon lost a lot of value after week 1 this year. I'm not saying completely shy away from him, but hopefully you have better options than Mr. Yeldon.
I don't like Jacksonville's offense. It all starts with their coaching and Blake Bortles, and none of it's going right for them there in their rebuild. Tavon Austin for the Rams. He's doubtful with a chest injury. Goff kind of looked good at first, but, that's another offense you kind of want to stay away from.
I've said it the last 2 weeks, and I know he threw up some touchdowns again last week, but I didn't want to see him quarterback this year. A quarterback that I don't give a lot of credit to and we trash on this show is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers didn't come out his rookie year and play. Now, I'm not trying to compare these two players at all and say, hey, Goff is the next guy. But let him learn. You're not making the playoffs anyways. You're putting him in a tough situation. Maybe get a little bit better of an offensive line next year. Work Gurley and let him be the player that he can become.
I agree with you there on that. I mean, and then once again, I'm not trying to compare the two players, but you look at Aaron Rodgers, Alex Smith, who both came out the same year. And is Aaron Rodgers the quarterback he is today if he's thrown into the dumpster fire? Alex Smith had it early in his career where he had 5 offensive coordinators in his first 6 years versus Aaron Rodgers comes in, sits behind a Hall of Fame who I don't consider him that, but you do hear him thrown out in the GOAT conversation a little bit with Favre. Not too much, but every once in a while.
Top
but
5, in my opinion.
He's top 10 on almost everybody's board, and I put him in that close 5, 6-ish range.
We
right
like
with
gunslingers, though.
I love it. I mean, he does throw the picks, but he makes those scary throws.
I personally think Alex Smith could have been, or could have had a better career or a better looking career with consistency. You just threw different coordinators at him, different players each and every year. And we've seen with Kansas City and Andy Reid that he's really come alive. I mean, they didn't throw a touchdown pass to a receiver, and now he's just left and right there able to score. I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Alex Smith.
Well, they don't really throw the ball a lot in Kansas City either. You know, they historically haven't.
That's Andy Reid's offense, though.
It's very true. Mark Ingram, game time decision. We hate these game time decisions for all the reasons. Great matchup at home against the Lions. You know, if he doesn't play, Tim Hightower owners are going to be very happy this week.
Either way, I would be happy as a Tim Hightower owner. We've seen Sean Payton be very careful with running backs, whether they're having fumbling woes or they have such an injury. If he's got another player that he can play, they have Cadet there and John Kuhn. I don't see Ingram being a huge factor, even if he's completely cleared. His ceiling is a flex play to me.
I kind of agree with you, especially if he's hurt like that. Hightower's been effective, and I think there's going to be more throwing in that game than anything between both teams.
Agreed.
Free agent pickups, you know, a majority of these we have touched on before, but you know what? We're gonna be like the parents here and normally do to people, and we're just gonna nag you and nag you and nag you because some of these people are still sitting out there, and I know they are in your leagues because they're in some of our money leagues. And you need to get these people. Ladarius Green. With the injuries at tight ends, there are some tight ends out there that are going to be there. Ladarius Green's a great pickup, starting to become more involved in that Steelers offense. Vernon Davis, you know, like we were talking about Vernon Davis before. I agree with you, Dave. The standard league for him. But still, who's going to replace Jordan Reed's production?
Deshaun Jackson.
Hopefully, but that all depends on where's Patrick Peterson going on.
Yeah.
Redskins have so many weapons there. Another good tight end to look at, Lance Kendricks. Tavon Austin being questionable like that. Well, he's actually doubtful, excuse me. With Tavon Austin being doubtful, Goff's got to throw to someone.
Well, and they don't throw deep at all.
No.
Fisher has them throwing a lot of short routes. I like Lance Kendricks. You will see amazing things if they get an offensive line. Let Gurley open up their offense, and they have a bright future there.
Because the receivers, I know they get a lot of a bad rap, but they actually have some talent there. They're just names you haven't heard of. There is speed there. They just don't have anybody to get them the ball.
Jermaine Gresham, too.
Yeah.
He scored TDs in his last 2 weeks. He's looking to be the best receiver next to David Johnson for the Cardinals.
Another one, we talked about him earlier with the Gronk injury, Mike Mitchell for the Patriots. I know you like this, man.
I do. Last week, I believe he had 4 receptions, 2 TDs, somewhere in the ballpark of 45 to 55 yards. He's you got Hogan there, you got Edelman, you got Amendola. I mean, he could be 4th on the pecking order, and that's a guy that I like to have in fantasy with a quarterback like Tom Brady that spreads the ball around.
I agree. Ken Dixon for the Ravens, he's starting to take over there. I know they were splitting carries almost equally last week, I do believe. I mean, it might have been 1 or 2 in one or the other's favor, but it was close to an equal split.
Yeah, he out-touched Terrence West last week. I traded for Terrence West and added Kenneth Dixon for that exact reason.
Great move there. Wide receivers, Taylor Gabriel for the Falcons. I mean, this man's coming out of nowhere. Teams are scheming Julio out, and guess what? Somebody's got to catch the ball.
He has amazing speed. They're using him in jet sweep plays. I'm just waiting to see him take the ball and bomb one to Julio. I think that's the one thing that we haven't seen yet. We've been pretty high on Gabriel the last couple weeks, but I mean, you even said it. We've preached these guys, but they're in our leagues. I had to grab Ladarius Green in my one keeper league, money league, because I have Delaney Walker. You're about to talk about this gentleman next. I had to pick him
Tyreek Hill.
Boom.
Another great pickup. I mean, Macklin's out, and we were talking about Alex Smith and how they're not throwing the ball a whole lot, and receivers aren't getting touchdowns. Well, guess what? Maybe it wasn't so much Alex Smith. Maybe part of it was the game plan. Maybe part of it was Jeremy Macklin's not good enough.
And he's used on special teams, so if your guy scores on special teams and it counts for a touchdown for you as it should in ours, He's a great addition. I'm starting him in my standard league as well.
No, great pickup there. At first it looked kind of like a flash in the pan type thing, but he's starting to be consistent with his production. And Taylor Gabriel is the same way.
Well, that and teams really scheme to take out Travis Kelce. He's a very big tight end. He's a top 5 tight end week in and week out, and that just opens up him and Albert Wilson a lot.
I agree. Well, a lot of interesting games this week. Multiple playoff implications throughout the league.
It'll be a very fun week to watch.
It is. There's going to be a lot of good games this week, I believe. This first game we're starting with, this was the hardest game for me to pick out of all of them. I actually picked this one last and had to come back to it. Lions versus Saints. The Lions are 7-4. Saints are 5-6. Out of those Lions 7 wins, guess what? All of them were come from behind wins in the fourth quarter. Stafford's got 7 game-winning drives in the fourth this year. 7 fourth quarter comebacks, tied for the most by a team in a season ever. Who tied them? The 2009 Colts, who were also coached by Caldwell. Kind of an interesting coincidence this year.
Are we comparing Stafford to Peyton?
No, but we'll be making a comparison with the other quarterback in Peyton shortly. This Lions team, they keep finding a way to win late, even though they're allowing 106.4 passer rating to opposing quarterbacks, and they're giving up 21.6 points per game, 15th in the league. It's a mediocre scoring defense. But it's Breeze at home. Breeze has 30 touchdowns, 8 picks this year already. 30 touchdowns, 9 times in his career he's hit 30 touchdowns on the season. That's tied with Favre and Peyton Manning for number 1 overall. This game, I think it's going to be a real high-scoring game. The Saints are giving up 27.9 points per game. Like I said, it was really hard for me to pick. You got to start Stafford. You got to start Breeze. Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, even Golden Tate. I think they're viable starters. 38-35. Lions steal one. Who dat?
Yeah, we touched earlier on the Mark Ingram situation. Now we look at these numbers and you guys might be like, Dave, just a flex play for Mark Ingram? 14 carry attempts, 146 yards. We're not going to see a repeat of that. Here's why we're high on Tim Hightower. 15 rushes, 51 yards. 2 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown. They use him every which way. I know we've seen a disappearance from Michael Thomas for a little bit, but he's found the end zone the last couple weeks. Last week, he had 9 receptions for 108 yards and 2 TDs. I firmly believe he's back in the good graces of Drew Brees after the 2 fumbles.
Or Willie Snead even. I think Snead hit him for a 50-yard touchdown last week.
Yeah, Snead, I do believe he had 5 receptions for 38 yards last week. It could have been the week before.
No, he threw a touchdown pass last week.
Oh, Snead? Yeah, that's
Snead
not
threw
here
on
on my
Michael
You're right.
Thomas.
Yeah, he
did. He threw a 50-yard touchdown on a flea flicker. You don't see that often. I love how the Saints incorporate that into their offense.
Someone that I've been, I don't want to say high on, but I absolutely am infatuated with in PPR leagues, Theo Riddick. If you followed us all year, you would have realized since, I believe, week 5, there was only 1 game that the Lions play that aren't in a dome, and it is against the Giants week 15.
That's correct.
That value is just tremendous when it comes to fantasy. With that being said, I do have the Saints winning this game 35-28.
High-scoring game either way. I think there's going to be lots of passing.
If you're going to be betting in Vegas, I would bet on the over of the total score scored. I don't
depending on what you're getting. If you can get a 50, 60, 55, roll with it.
Absolutely.
Rams, Patriots. The Rams 4-7 somehow. Patriots 9-2. I think losing Gronk hurts the Patriots more than they're going to admit, but it's still the Patriots, and they're playing the Rams. I know Goff. Hey, he started out great in the first half. 3 touchdowns in the first half last week, but then second half adjustments, he had 47 yards and a pick in the second half. That's it. The Patriots have held their opponents to 20 points or less 7 times this year, which is tied for first with the Chiefs and the Seahawks. And Belichick, in the last 2 games against Mr. Fisher, has outscored him 104-7. Yeah. I don't see much being different here, even with Gronk being out. Brady's going to get his. LeGarrett's going to get stuffed a little bit. The Rams do have a formidable defensive line. I think Edelman's going to pick up some slack. I have Martellus, Mike Mitchell, like you were discussing. Patriots 31, Rams 10. The game's not even going to be that close.
After the display put on last week from the running backs from the Saints, I'm a little bit different on how the run game will go. I think this will be Dion Lewis's breakout game.
I see that more than LeGarrette.
We've seen what happened out of the passing game. I believe Mark Ingram had a receiving touchdown last week too. You can put it in the books. Dion Lewis will have 100 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns, and he is put nowhere near those numbers up. But this week, it's gonna happen. We look at last week, and I'm worried about the Patriots. They lost Rob Gronkowski. They won 22-17. They I don't want to say barely threw on a bad Jets defense, but Brady only had 2 touchdowns. He was 30 for 50, 286 yards. His number one receiver was Edelman, 8 receptions, 83 yards. I really want to see them annihilate someone to know where they're at. Otherwise, what? The Dolphins might be able to take this division.
The Dolphins do play them again. And like you're talking to Jets, Brady didn't tear them up, but it's the same thing. The Jets are going to play the Patriots tough.
With that being said, I have the Patriots winning this in a very close game. I could be absolutely wrong, but I believe I am right. Patriots 24, LA Rams 21.
I like it, Dave. You got to believe you're right. Otherwise, it's hard to make bold predictions. Broncos Jaguars. Man, Simeon being out, the Broncos season, even without him being out, their season's on the brink, even though they're 7-4.
There's other Simeons in the sea.
That's true. This is true. I mean, but even at 7-4, they're looking at third, and they're looking from the way back. And Miami's ahead of them in the wild card race right now. I like the balls he had last week to attempt the 62-yard field goal instead of trying to force a tie. The Jaguars though, they're 2-9. They're 0-7 against teams that are 500 or better this year. And Bortles, here's something interesting. He's never had a pass rating of 90 or more when playing a top 25 pass D. Top 25 pass D. That's not astronomically great pass defenses. The Broncos have a great D. That being said, I think with Simeon being out, I think the Jags steal one at home. I think Bortles is going to buck that trend. I think Jalen Ramsey's going to shut down what little bit of a passing game Paxton Lynch can manage. Devonta Booker, he hasn't looked the same the past couple weeks. There's some struggles. That whole team hasn't looked the same in the past 3 weeks. Jaguars 27, Broncos 18.
The one thing that I still enjoy about Booker here, 24 rush attempts. Denver's not going away from him.
No.
The sad thing about this is it just looks like Trevor Siemian was finding his stride with Emmanuel Sanders, and he goes out hurt. We're looking at 7 receptions for 162 yards and a touchdown for Emmanuel Sanders last week. I think I have to completely disagree on going for the gold on that 62-yard field goal. I know they said earlier in the game his target, McManus's target range was 60 yards, but it was a lot warmer when they were warming up before the game. It got a lot colder. I think it was like 35 degrees or somewhere around
Cold
there.
weather affects that.
Where their record is at and how they could still squeak into the wild card, possibly even a divisional win. I mean, they would need a lot to go right for that. I would have liked to see them punt the ball. I know you never play for a tie and you go for the win, but when you're giving the Chiefs the ball at over midfield and all they need is a field goal to win, and Santos has not missed yet, I would have punted that ball, took the tie, because a half a win is better than no win.
Ask the Redskins how they're going to feel about their tie at the end of the year, if that's the difference between the Packers or some other wild cards sneaking in and them getting it because of that tie.
Or the Seahawks and the Cardinals when they both went back and forth and missed, I think, 3 field goals at the end of the game.
That was an ugly game, too.
I'm not going to go off this. I like the volume that Booker has put up. I think you see Booker touch the ball more than 30 times on the ground this week with Paxton Lynch behind the helmet. I had to change my score in this game after I found out about the injury. I am going to go Denver squeaking this one out. 17, Jacksonville 14.
Nice. Then we got the Niners and the Bears. This is like the battle for who's going to get the number 2 pick in the draft. Because I don't see the Browns winning one this year. The Niners, they won their first game this year. They might lose 15 straight. this year and not get the number one pick because the Browns are that bad. The Bears, they're a franchise once proud. They're in complete disarray. The only saving grace the Bears have going right now is Kaepernick. I know he's showing traces of his dynamic prime that he had. He had 3 touchdowns passes in Miami last week. The only thing saving the Bears, Vic Fangio, their defensive coordinator. He knows Cap really, really well. He was with that Niners team when they went to the Super Bowl against the Ravens. I think that is going to make the difference. I think he's going to be able to, he knows Cap's tendencies and his weaknesses. I think he's going to be able to scheme to slow Cap down. And even though the Bears are self-destructing, Matt Barkley, he hasn't played poorly with Cutler being out, Alshon being out too. He had 54 attempts last week, but he had over 300 yards, and he had 8 drops by his receivers. I mean, that's
2
huge.
game-winning touchdown drops, by the way, on the same drive.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't put it all on him. He's actually played extremely well, not extremely well, but extremely better than what I'm pretty sure anybody would have guessed. That being said, the Bears at 2-9, Niners at 1-10. I think they ride Jordan Howard here. I think Matt Barkley is going to do enough. Fangio's defense is going to do enough to keep Cap bottled up a little bit. They're going to focus on Carlos Hyde. Let Cap try and beat him. Bears 24, Niners 20.
Here's what Carlos Hyde quietly had a really good game last week.
He did.
I kind of see the same game coming out of him this week because the Bears have a very underrated defense. Carlos Hyde had 13 rushing attempts for 65 yards, but he also added 5 receptions for 30 yards and a TD. The scary thing is Colin Kaepernick's their leading rusher.
Yep.
We're looking at 10 rushes for 113 yards with all those other yards added up, and they still couldn't beat the Miami Dolphins. As much as it pains me to say, I don't see how Chicago loses this game. I have knock on some wood here. Is Wilson going to drop more touchdowns in the end zone? I don't know, but I don't have a lot to say in this game. I don't know. I don't like either of these teams. I don't think either of them are very fantasy relevant. I mean, if you're really hurting at QB or you had Marcus Mariota and no one else, don't be afraid to go grab Colin Kaepernick. He gets you a boatload of points because of what he does on the ground and through the air. The scary thing is their best wide receivers, just like Jermaine Gresham. It's Vance McDonald. Last week, 4 receptions and 60 yards. I have this game super close. Bears 21, 49ers 20. Bear down.
Bear down. Lions, Tigers, Niners, and Bears. Oh, my.
There's no gold rush there.
No gold rush. Texans, Packers in historic Lambeau. We got the Texans at 6-5. They've led their division since week 1, and I don't know how. They've given up 42 more points than they've scored, and they're 6-5. The Packers, they're 5-6, but they've lost 5 of their last 7. I know they kind of had a little statement win against the Eagles, but let's face it, it was a rookie quarterback who lost Jordan Matthews early in the game. There's still something wrong with both these teams. Relax? No, I don't think so. I still think there's something wrong with the Packers. But they're facing Brock Osweiler. He's got a 72.2 passer rating this year, which is the lowest of the 32 qualifying quarterbacks in the league. The Packers, they're allowing a passer rating of over 100 for every game this year. If that holds true, it's never happened in Packers franchise history, ever. I don't see Osweiler. I think the streak ends there for that one. I don't see Osweiler tearing it up this week. Packers are 19-3 in December at home under Mike McCarthy. They got kind of an easy schedule coming up. The Packers, they say relax. Look who they're playing after the Texans. They're in Chicago, then Minnesota and Green Bay, and then the Lions in Detroit. They hold their own fate right now. If they win out, they have a very good chance of taking this division. That being said, Lamar Miller's a great start here. I think the Texans lean on him, even though the Packers have the good run D. A-Rod, of course you're starting him. Jordy, Devontae, you're starting both of those. I know I like Randall Cobb, but he's very hit and miss. Devontae's established himself as the number 2 wide receiver in that team. Hands down, in my opinion. That being said, sneaky play. Packers defense might not be a bad play. Osweiler's tied for the league lead in picks. It's a sneaky streaming defense. That being said, Packers 28, Texans 21. Although I think DeAndre Hopkins finds the end zone this week.
Yeah, I'm looking at these numbers here, Daryl, and I am fucking baffled. Did the Texans not watch what the Miami Dolphins did last year with Lamar Miller? He had 19 carries last week and 3 receptions, 22 on a workhorse. You guys only put up 13 points. There's a team in the beginning of the year. They don't do it so much now because they got the receivers back. It's the Browns, but even when they were down, they ran the ball.
Right, being down 10 at the start of the third quarter isn't desperation time yet.
They say everything's bigger in Texas, but they've never been to Lambeau. There's only one person with the biggest arrogant ass in the world, and that's Mr. Aaron Rodgers. As much as I hate to say it, I just don't see how the Houston Texans can win in Lambeau this week when you're not going to let your workhorse running back run all over this struggling run defense. You're going to look last week and you're going to say, well, they didn't run too well in Philly. Well, Darren Sproles is banged up. Ryan Matthews didn't play. Smallwood is what his name is, Smallwood. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins had 5 receptions for 70 yards. Well, guess what? Ha ha. Clinton Dix will be on that ass. All I know is that this game is not going to make me very happy because I would enjoy very much to watch the Green Bay Packers go down at home. But, fun fact, leading receiver since week 5, Davante Adams, 677 yards leading the NFL. He will find the end zone again. What's the biggest problem? I don't have a spot to start him on my team. Well, that being said, Green Bay is going to win this game. Yoo-hoo, 28-24.
Very close again. And see, now, the Texans did take a page from the Dolphins with Lamar Miller because the Dolphins, they'd workhorse him one game and then they horribly mismanaged him the next. So they must have. They must have known.
I don't know who I'm going to blame. Is it the coach or is it Brock Osweiler? I mean, Brock Osweiler has 3 interceptions. Lamar Miller touches the ball 22 times. Well, math says if your quarterback can't throw the fucking ball, run it.
You'd think he'd learn that, but I think at this point that I don't know if there's still pressure on him or what, but they gave him all that money to sign with him. And I mean, I know it sounded like an astronomical amount, but I think it was only like 15th amongst starting quarterbacks, so it wasn't huge. But big free agent investment. They weren't ready to give up on him. I think that time is now. They need to just...
He saved John Elway a lifetime of frustration.
Yeah, that's why Elway knew what he had. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer himself. He's like, yeah, bye-bye. We have Brock Osweiler. His name is Paxton Lynch and Trevor Siemian.
Don't worry. He had 3 rushes for 23 yards and a touchdown, though. Go Brock.
All right, another game. Well, that Texans-Packer game had some playoff implications itself. Chiefs-Falcons. Chiefs at 8-3, sitting second in their division. Falcons at 7-4, leading their division. Now the Chiefs. We were talking about Tyreek Hill. He's the first player since Gale Sayers. Now that's going back a ways. With a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and a kick return touchdown all in the same game. Their defense, they're up there with that New England team. 20 points or less allowed 7 times this year. They're averaging giving up 19.5 a game. Justin Houston was back last week and back to being a complete wrecking ball. He had 3 sacks, 10 tackles. I think that's going to be huge this game. KC leads the league in takeaways. They've won 6 of their last 7. They've got 24 sacks on the year, 13 picks on the year. But then you got the Falcons. God, Matt Ryan, passer rating 114.3 on the year, 26 touchdowns, 6 picks. Taylor Gabriel, I think he's going to be a factor in this game because Marcus Peters, he is I wouldn't say top 5 corner, but he's in that ish list in that 6, 7, 8. He's a shutdown corner, and I think he's going to give Julio problems. And Matt Ryan's been sacked 27 times on the year. I think this is a bad matchup for Matt Ryan. I think Justin Houston's going to be up in his ass all game. If you have Julio, you're still starting Julio. Taylor Gabriel, you got to start him. Matt Ryan, you got to start him. Sneaky play this week. I think the Chiefs D. I got the Chiefs 27, Falcons 24. It's going to be on the back of their defense. They're going to force a couple turnovers. Tyreek Hill finds the end zone once again.
Well, sir, we have the exact same score, but opposite.
Oppo Day.
I did have to go with the Falcons in this game because their offense is 3 times what Denver is, and Casey barely squeaked by there, but let's understand Denver's D is top 2, not top 3, top 2 each week. They're usually my number 1. They're in the mile high. I think my 2 favorite players to watch this week from the Falcons, you've mentioned them a lot. One is Taylor Gabriel. Number 2, Tevin Coleman. I think Devontae Freeman's going to have a problem finding a lot of traction on the ground, but they like to find Tevin Coleman out of the backfield. Tevin had 8 rushes for 9 yards last week and a TD. He also had 2 catches for 4 yards. We see those numbers go up greatly. They didn't have to use them a lot because Taylor Gabriel and Devontae Freeman really held down the fort last week. I agree, Julio's going to have another rough time. It ails me to say that because I have Julio on my team, but I am a realist and I'm not going to lie to you. You can't bench him, but he is going to have another struggle. You've touched a lot of the bases. There's someone I'd like to see come alive here for Kansas City because it's a really busted down Atlanta defense, and that's Travis Kelce. I think Kelsey's going to have himself a heck of a week. Tyreek Hill's going to have a big week. Spencer will get his numbers, but don't look at a lot. I think the better quarterback here is, in fact, Alex Smith, but the key to this win is the foot of Matt Bryant. Again, Atlanta 27, Kansas City 24.
Speaking of keys to the game being the foot, we're on to who we've been touting as the Ravens MVP all year, and Mr. Justin Tucker.
That's a great segue.
I know, it just worked out great. First take. Dolphins-Ravens, another playoff implication game. Dolphins 7-4, Ravens 6-5. The Ravens lose, Steelers win. You got a whole cluster at the top of that division.
Don't speak such blasphemy.
I know. Dolphins 7-4. They need to win to secure their playoff chances. They're on the edge of that last wild card, but they've won 6 in a row. I know the last 5 have been by a touchdown or less, but Detroit's 7-4, and all 7 of those games were fourth quarter comebacks. They keep finding ways to win. They hit 7 in a row. It'd be the first time since '85 when Marino was in his heyday, lighting up defenses. Ajay, I know he kind of is starting to look a little bit like a flash in the pan, but the past couple games they've been out without 3 starting offensive linemen in Pouncey, that Laramie Tunsil, the gas mask draft pick, and Brandon Albert. Now, Albert and Tunsil are going to be back. I think that's going to help a lot of their problems on the offensive line. It's going to let Ajay get the room that he was getting before. That being said, Miami's D has stepped it up quite a bit the past couple weeks. I know they gave up 3 touchdowns to Cap. Cap causes defensive problems. He's a mismatch. The Ravens, I don't think they have the offense to win this game. Tucker, he's made 34 straight field goals. I actually saw an article on ESPN asking if Tucker is the Ravens MVP, and I'm thinking, did you listen to my podcast like week 4? We've mentioned it almost every week that I think he's the Ravens MVP. They got the number 1 run D in the league. They're giving up 76 yards per game, 14 or less points per game, 3 to last 4. I think this is going to be another low-scoring game. The Ravens don't have an identity on offense. Is it Ken Dixon? Is it Terrence West? Is it Steve Smith? Is it Mike Wallace? Is it Flacco throwing 50 times for 185 yards? I think it's going to be a low-scoring, sloppy game, defensive battle. Dolphins continue the streak. Miami 17, Ravens 13.
Yeah, they have no true weapon here. And I don't want to hate Joe Flacco, but he has a Super Bowl ring, and I don't see him as any different of a quarterback than I see Sam Bradford. He had 25 for 36, 234 yards, a TD, and an interception. We are ecstatic when Sam Bradford reaches 200 yards. They both have great defenses. I would give the run game favorable to the Ravens right now.
Yep.
AP comes back, goes back to Minnesota. In this game, it's gonna be sloppy. You're not gonna want to watch this game. It's kind of hard to watch a lot of the Ravens games. They like to control the clock. I think the key to this game here is Devontae Parker. He has really emerged for the Miami Dolphins. Jarvis Landry isn't even making my top 30 list when I make it. He's scarce. He's very scarce. Ryan Tannehill looks like he's kind of turning things around. They're not workhorsing J.J.I., but can you blame them? It's working for them. When they workhorse them, it works. When they go to the pass game, it works.
They were also missing 3 starters on the offensive line, and it's hard to try and workhorse somebody when your 3 best linemen aren't there.
Right, and you talked about the Kenneth Dixon, Terrence West situation. The only reason Dixon out-touched West is because he had 1 more reception than West. It's a double-headed monster there. They like to grind it out. Their only problem is stopping big plays. And I think that they're going to try and lock down Jarvis Landry, and they're going to have a hard time locking down Devontae Parker and Kenny Stills, who still has a lot of speed.
Dolphins have too much speed for the Ravens secondary.
I agree. If Tannehill's on the mark this game and the front line of the Dolphins can stop the rush of Doomerville and company, the Dolphins will win this game 21-17, opening up room for the Pittsburgh Steelers to come in and take the division.
I like it. Both our teams can sneak in.
I like it.
We can make this happen. Fantasy gods on our side. All right. Eagles-Bengals. Eagles are 5-6, while the Bengals sitting at 3-7-1. The Bengals, I know they had some pretty severe injuries with Gio being done for the year, and AJ, I mean, like we were talking about, I really strongly feel I'd be shocked to see AJ play again this year. Even before those injuries, they were one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL. I mean, you got to look at them and the Cardinals and the Panthers. Those 3 teams were all teams that had serious playoff hopes, and they've all just kind of fallen apart. I think they're finding out that Mr. Lewis isn't the answer, along with the Red Ryder BB gun, as J.J. Watt likes to call him. I don't think he's the answer either. Now, the Eagles, 5-6. Carson Wentz, he doesn't always show it. He is their answer at quarterback. It's going to come. He doesn't have receiving help. They're wide receivers in Philly. They're 28th in yards in the league, 30th in yards per reception. I mean, you watched the Packer game last week. They were moving the ball. Jordan Matthews goes out. Offensive struggles because now he doesn't have a receiver worth a crap anymore. And Jordan Matthews isn't a stud wide receiver, but it's the best he's got. Zach Ertz can't do it himself. He's no Gronk. He's no Jordan Reed. With their running game struggles, you touched on that earlier with Sproles, Ryan Matthews, and Smallwood, Mr. Smallwood. The Eagles, they're 1-5 on the road, and they've lost 6 of their last 8 games. That one win they had on the road, that was against the Bears. I don't know if that counts. That being said, I think the Eagles are going to struggle again. Bengals, they're going to pull it out. I don't even know how I have this game scored this high. I have it Cincinnati 28, Philly 20. I think the Eagles just continue to collapse, and the Bengals somehow are fighting, thinking they have a half-assed chance to make the playoffs.
Well, here was my problem with the Bengals, and I can't say it's a problem, and I get it. You don't want to work a guy too much, and you don't have him long-term, such as years after years.
Right.
But we both knew it 2 years ago when the Jeremy Hill situation came up. You're like, man, you had a really good thing with Giovanni Bernard, and then this Jeremy Hill cat comes in, and it starts
getting
taken
his own
away, right?
Yeah.
Well, with Gio, we've seen that they're workhorse in Jeremy Hill. I think that's going to be the difference maker in this game. Without A.J. Green out there, I mean, you still have Eifert doing his thing. Tyler Boyd's got to get open. Who is the defender in Philly? I can't think of it right now, but he's very locked down on the corner side. It'll come to me.
I can't think of his name either.
Yeah, it'll come to me. But I agree. I don't know why I have it this high scoring either. I just have a lot of faith in Jeremy Hill being able to find the end zone a couple times, possibly Tyler.
That's why I gave him 28.
A very big one. There's not much you're going to do there. This is about the time of the year when the Red Rocket gets hurt, which doesn't bother me. Send them down to the bottom of the division. When we've seen Philly have success, they had success in the run game. And if they want a chance to win this game, they need to move the ball. I know we said for weeks and weeks Darren Sproles is the guy to own. That's true, but it still hurts them not to have Ryan Matthews out there to utilize. With that Ryan Matthews injury being there and Jordan Matthews being questionable for this game, it's a guaranteed win for Cincinnati at home, 24-17.
Wow, more playoff implications. We got the Buffalo Rex Ryans against the Oakland Raiders. Now the Rex Ryans are 6-5. they got a chance. They got a chance to sneak into the playoffs. I mean, it's an outside chance. I know Miami's ahead of them at 7-4. Denver's ahead of them at 7-4. But it's football. Crazy things happen. The Raiders sitting at 9-2, currently the number 1 seed in the AFC. This game, it's going to be another high-scoring game. The Raiders D, they've given up 12 rushing touchdowns this year. That's 24th in the league. And then you got Mr. LaShawn McCoy, who, kind of had a ho-hum first half, comes out, breaks a 70-yarder right off the bat. But Buffalo's given up at least 28 points in their last 3 games against teams with winning records. I think that happens again here this week. They're going against somebody called Derek Carr. Another one of those MVP candidates. 13 game tying or go-ahead touchdowns in the fourth quarter in the last 2 years. 13. Go-ahead or game tying. Think on that. That's 6 more than the guy that's in second right now. 6 more. He's turning into a stud. Breaks his pinky. You know what he says? It don't matter. I'll throw on my Return of the Jedi glove, and I'll still go out and ball out. You got the second best offensive line in the league, only behind Dallas. I think LaShawn McCoy must start. I mean, obviously, if you have LaShawn McCoy, you're starting him. But I think even in DFS, you pay what he's going to cost. The guy, he's going to be their offense. Sammy Watkins, he's starting to come around. We'll see what happens with him. I like Sammy Watkins' athletic ability. I don't trust the Bills' passing game, especially in a game like this. I think they're going to pound the shit out of the ball with LaShawn. And, well, the Raiders are going to do the opposite. They're going to throw the shit out of the ball. The 3 C's, Carr, Cooper, and Crabtree, I like them all. I know Amari, he's been kind of up and down all year. Crabtree started out hot. He's had his moments, too. I think they make up for it this week. Latavius is even going to get in on the deal a little bit. I think it's more of a PPR thing. I think he's going to get some catches, put up some points. That being said, high-scoring game. Raiders still hold on to the number 1 seed in the AFC. Raiders 34, Bills 28. I think Carr throws for 400.
Sorry, the defender I was trying to think of was Malcolm Jenkins.
Yes,
for the Philadelphia Eagles. I had to get that out there. There's just something that really bothers me right now. I was talking to you about this before the podcast. I'm seriously debating benching Amari Cooper in my standard league. The one and only week that I did that, he went off for like 33 standard points. So I'm not telling you to do that. But if I win this week, I get the 2 seed, which is a bye into the playoffs and guaranteed money. On my bench, I have Devontae Adams and Deshaun Jackson, so I have very viable options there. I'm scared. I'm really scared about this game. Buffalo doesn't have a great secondary, but at the same time, is it going to Crabtree? Are they going to workhorse Latavius Murray? You touched on LaShawn McCoy. With Sammy Watkins coming back, look at LaShawn McCoy to score no less than 20 standard points each and every single week.
It opens up the offense for him because now they can't just focus on him and we're worried about Robert Woods.
And not only that, you have one of the better mobile quarterbacks that I like because he doesn't take a lot of big hits. He's a safer QB in Tyrod
He's not super stupid with the ball either. He doesn't just chuck it. He's fairly smart with the ball.
No, I definitely like this game. Again, I'm a little worried about Amari Cooper. You still start him. You start your studs. I have not taken him out of my roster. Depends if I start drinking at 10 a.m. on Sunday. We'll see. But, in this game, I have Oakland winning 24, Buffalo 17.
All right. Another game with playoff implications. We got the Buccaneers going into San Diego. Phillip Rivers. It's like the Sam Bradford thing. I like Phillip Rivers. I feel sorry for Phillip Rivers. Every year, this guy seems to tear it up the first 7, 8, 9 games. And, his team just gets hurt and falls apart. It's happened to every year. Buccaneers coming in 6-5. Chargers 5-6. Buccaneers are 4-1 on the road. Beat the Seahawks. I know that's not quite what it used to be, but still, they beat the Seahawks. They're giving up 24 points per game. Jameis Winston, in his last 6 games, 12 touchdown passes, 2 picks. He's got 22 touchdowns, 11 on the year, but 2 2 picks in his last 6 games versus 12 touchdowns. He's starting to come around. Now, San Diego, Rivers has been sacked 26 times this year. He does have 3 touchdowns in each of the last 2 games, and Tampa's given up 20 touchdown passes on the year, 9th worst in the league. I think there's going to be some more fireworks in this game. The Chargers' defense is only 26 against the pass, and they're giving up 26.5 points per game. Rivers, like I said, I feel so sorry for that man. He's got talent. Everybody gets hurt. Everybody. It's going to happen. I'm waiting for that man to get hurt. I don't know how he's dodged injury his whole career. That being said, I think you start Rivers, you start Tyrell Williams. I think he's going to be a player. He's kind of breaking out this year as a wide receiver. I think Tyrell Williams is going to have a good game. Antonio Gates, always a sneaky play in the red zone. Jameis, you got to start him. Doug Martin, you start him. They're workhorsing him. Mike Evans, Mike Evans is a top 3 wide receiver week in and week out with his targets. How do you not start him? He's almost the wide receiver 1. Almost. I still have my biases a little bit towards AB. But, that being said, the Chargers find another way to lose a tight game. Buccaneers 30, Chargers 24.
This is something we didn't touch on. We are pushing to the fantasy playoffs. If you're a Doug Martin owner and this guy is in your free agency, whether you have an IR spot or not, he's worth looking at. Charles Sims is looking to be deactivated off the IR week 14. I have him on my IR spot. I have him handcuffed. You were definitely right about the workhorse on Doug Martin. 23 rushes for 87 yards. He also hauled in 2 receptions. He did have a fumble and lose his fumble. In our league, you get charged huge for that. You get charged for the fumble and a fumble lost. I think it's 3 total points just on that play. Jameis Winston, 21 of 28, 220, 2 TDs and INT. Really like him this week. He always finds Mike Evans, even when he faces the tough defenses. You touched on it. Phillip Rivers, I had him projected to have 2 touchdowns minimum. He's going to have 2 turnovers. It's usually his number. He's going to put up some points. I have Tampa Bay winning this in a super tight game, 28-26. You know who's been kind of, I don't want to say quiet, but compared to earlier in the year, Melvin Gordon.
Yeah. He's kind of disappeared a little bit.
And Tampa's got a very good run D, so don't expect super big numbers out of him this week.
Tampa's starting to pressure the quarterback.
You'll be happy with 15 standard points.
Giants Steelers playoff implications. Giants are 8-3, second best record in the NFC, 4th easiest schedule so far this year. Steelers 6-5. The Ravens dropping it. They're going to be super motivated in this game. They average 32 points per game at home with Berger. Le'Veon and AB. What can you say about them? What can't you say about them? Those 2 account for 63% of the yards from scrimmage for the Steelers ever since Le'Veon came back. The Giants, they got 6 wins in a row, but 3 of them were the Rams, Bears, and Browns, a motley crew of teams. And they tend to sleepwalk through 2/3 of the game and then try and put up points. I think bad Eli shows up. If you got Odell Beckham, you're starting him. Eli's going to, I think, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, another MO like Phillip Rivers. Berger, you start him. Ladarius, you start him. AB, you start him. Le'Veon, you better be starting him. Steelers 38, Giants 27. Steeler Nation rolls on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would like to get super hyped about this game, but I'm still a little down about last week. We didn't put the pounding on the Indianapolis Colts like we should have. Their defense is super busted. Antonio Brown had 3 touchdowns. I was very happy to see that. He emerged. I honestly think we see the same type of score. It was 28-7 last week. You hit all the key points. Sterling Shepard was very quiet last week. I think he had 2 points in our league, and they came off a rush in the 4th quarter. That's going to change this week. Steelers are going to win this game 24-20.
Redskins Cardinals. Tale of 2 teams going in 2 different directions. Redskins are 6-4-1. Cardinals 4-6-1, including 1-3-1 out of their last 5. Kirk Cousins, the man's been going off. He's been playing out of his mind. I feel bad for him. They lost to Dallas last week. How do you throw up 500 total yards of offense, 0 turnovers, and still lose? Well, you played the Cowboys. That's going to happen. Kirk Cousins, last 5 games, 72% completion percentage, averaging 369 passing yards a game, 11 touchdowns, 1 pick last 5 games. He's been balling out. The only teams they've lost to this year are teams that are either in first place or tied for first place. Pretty mind-boggling. The Cardinals, what can you say? They got David Johnson on offense, Patrick Peterson on defense. That's about it. Carson Palmer's already been sacked more times this year than he has last year. Their offense, 9th in yards per game, 20th in points per game. I think the Redskins and Kirk Cousins, I think they can navigate around Patrick Peterson on defense. And you know what? David Johnson's going to get his. He is. Larry Fitz, you're still starting him. I feel bad for the guy. Carson Palmer disappeared, got old. Kirk Cousins, you're starting him. Robert Kelly, you're starting him. Their wide receivers, I like Jamison Crowder out of Garcon and Deshaun. I think he's going to pick up the slack. Historically, when Reed's been out this year, Crowder's had good games. I think he's going to be another good play this week. Redskins roll. 35 Redskins, Cardinals 23.
Yeah, you absolutely touched on everything that I'd say. David Johnson, the only relevant player for the Arizona Cardinals here. Look for another big week out of him. Again, you're in a pinch. Jermaine Gresham could be a great play. I do enjoy Vernon Davis here, and again, Jamison Crowder is the wide receiver I enjoy here. I have this a very close game, though. Washington 21, Arizona 20.
Panthers, Seahawks. Another team on the demise. Carolina Panthers 4-7, Hawks 7-3-1. Cam's only got 5 touchdowns in the last 5 games. They're desperate, but they're tied with the Hawks for the most sacks in the NFC. Seahawks offensive line been shit the last couple weeks. They've gone 3 games in a row now without a touchdown. Or they've had 3 games this year without a touchdown. They're ranked 23rd in scoring offense. I don't know. Michael Bennett's coming back. 12th man rules. You got Russell Wilson. I think you start him here. It's a bounce back game. You got Cam. You got to start him. Jonathan Stewart. He's going to be a non-factor. Rawls. I don't like him this week. I really don't. I don't like Calvin Benjamin. Greg Olsen is a good play. Jimmy Graham's a good play. Seahawks 27. Panthers 17. They get revenge on Cam.
I agree. I bench Rawls in my standard. I would love to play him. I just can't. I will be changing my score if I am 110% that Luke Kuechly is in and healthy. I do believe that he could be an absolute game changer in this game.
Yes.
I want to see Richard Sherman step it up. He got lit up last week, and they took him off Mike Evans. He could not stop him. I don't know if it's just age or if it's just arrogance. Maybe him
Julio
and Mr.
did him
Aaron
too.
Rodgers should start hanging out in the offseason. Right now, I have this game going to Seattle 24-16, but again, I will completely flip this score if Luke Kuechly will be there at middle linebacker for the Carolina Panthers. He's that big of a factor.
I agree. He's a huge factor. Best middle linebacker in the league, hands down. And my score and prediction was based off him not playing.
He gets their defense off the field and rested left and right.
He's their team leader, even more than Cam, I think.
Well, that, and he needs someone that can track down Russell Wilson.
Yep. Speaking of Russell Wilson, career 109.2 pass rating in the second half. Career.
Yeah.
Best all time.
He was on a very hot streak of not throwing interceptions of over or the fewest interceptions thrown through like 300 plus games.
And now we have a game that has, Colts might have some playoff hopes. Jets sure as hell don't. Colts 5-6. Jets, doesn't matter what they are. Colts only have 13 turnovers in all 11 games this year. Luck's back. I think he's going to shred whatever remains of Darrelle Revis. Whatever remains. I don't know how much is left of him. The Jets, their defense, Colts have 13 turnovers in 11 games. The Jets haven't forced a turnover in their last 3. Fitzpatrick's still starting. He might hit 300 in this one because they're going to have to throw the ball. He's probably going to throw 3 picks to go with that 300. But I think you get it. Their offense is only averaging 15 points per game in their last 9 games. It's pathetic. They can't move the ball. I think Fitzmagic's done. I loved Captain Caveman coming into the year. That being said, I think Luck throws for 400 plus. T.Y. Hilton, great start if he's playing. Moncrief, great start. Gore, he's going to struggle a little bit. The Jets do have a good run D. That's about it. Forte. Matt Forte is going to have a pretty good game until they get so far behind that they can't run the ball. Oppo scores here. Colts 41, Jets 14.
What scares me is last week Powell rushed the ball 8 times for 36 yards, and Forte rushed the ball 13 times for 27 yards. Brandon Marshall owners, be happy. 6 receptions, 67 yards and a touchdown. Quincy Enunwa, 5 receptions, 109 yards and a touchdown. Colts, you're going to get a huge day from T.Y. You're going to get an even bigger day from Moncrief, because I do believe they put the best defender on T.Y., but T.Y., it doesn't matter. His speed's next to none. I really enjoy that matchup. The one that you touched on, Frank Gore. I think Frank Gore has a better time nowadays going up against those tough defenses, because what we've seen when he was doing good is they were dumping the ball off to him, running and getting those TDs. I think we see another one of those this week. The Colts easily win this game. I don't think it's going to be super high scoring, but they're going to easily win it. They don't want to see anyone get hurt, especially with Luck just coming back. Colts will win this game 27-16.
Nice. And then that brings us to Belichick or bust.
Rep that tool. Don't be a fool.
You know it. All right. This is somebody I never thought I'd pick, especially the way he's been playing this year. We're talking about it. Never had a passer rating of 90 or more against the top 25 pass D. I think he bucks that trend this week. I'm taking Blake Bortles. Now, he's not going to have a fantasy stud-type game. I think he throws a couple touchdowns. He'll probably throw a pick or two to go with it. Denver's got a pretty good D. I think he does enough to lead the Jaguars to a victory against a team that is starting to lose its identity in Denver. My other pick, touching on him, Jamison Crowder. Like I said, with Reed being out, every time Reed's been out this year, Crowder's had big games. And I think he has another one here in the desert. Makes Arizona fall apart.
It's ironic. We don't even talk about who we're going to pick, and we picked both guys from the same team, I guess you could say.
Okay.
My first one will be Vernon Davis. I want to see what he does this week. We've seen him put up good numbers before when Jordan Reed has been out. I would like to see him get high volume. Normally it's less than 6 catches. I would love to see more, but he will find the end zone.
He even had a good game last week with Jordan Reed playing.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And the other one here, I'm going to take the Jacksonville defense. I would like to see what the Jacksonville defense does. I did see Matthew Berry say that they could be a sneaky play this week. That's not what I'm piggybacking off of. I kind of was torn between choosing them or Mike Mitchell, but I think Mike Mitchell over the last 2 weeks has solidified his spot with Tom Brady. Tom Brady's looking for this guy over and over, so I think it's more of a boom or bust play to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars defense to see what they can do against those Denver Broncos.
Weird picks. I almost went with the Chiefs D because they're playing Atlanta, and I switched it to Jamison Crowder after we started talking about that Arizona game. I'm just like, that's right, Reed being out.
It's like, do they troll or do they know? We had another sighting.
Mr. Vanden Bogaard, I don't think he know because you traded Gronk 3 weeks ago, homie.
God, he needs to go put on the Grand Theft Auto 3 soundtrack, go get in the Diablo car and put on the radio so the song Smack My Bitch Up comes on.
I don't know if that's allowed. His mom's calling down into the basement to let him know dinner's ready, so he's got to get going.
Well, it's been another fun week, Dale. Yes. I'm glad we could do it. I hope you all enjoyed it. Keep pouring in those questions on the page. I know we were a big help this week to a couple people, and we want to keep being that help.
Good luck, everyone, and may the fantasy gods be with you.
Gryffindor!